Welcome to By the Numbers, where we take raw data from the worlds of film and TV out for a night of analysis so steamy that 9 months later an info baby pops out. Today with the help of Danielle Parris of StatSignificant.com, and of course my trusty AI assistant Fandom.
Please don't be frightened, I'm one of the good ones.
We'll be doing a statistical analysis of Hollywood romance age gaps. You're probably familiar with Leonardo DiCaprio's hard cap of 25 when it comes to partners. And you may have heard about the birth of Al Pacino's latest child with partner Noor Al-Fala, who is 54 years younger than him. That's an entire Owen Wilson's lifespan of difference.
Wow.
But this discourse has moved beyond where Al dunks his chino and evolved into discussions on how Hollywood portrays age gaps on screen, especially when it comes to relationships between older men and much younger women.
IDs please, no one under 18 or over 25 allowed.
Let's break these down to figure out the extent of this phenomena, the outliers, and what could possibly be driving it, besides, horny old dudes. And there was no better resource for our endeavor than the Hollywood Age Gap Repository created by Lynn Fisher. The Hollywood Age Gap Repository, or the very unfortunate acronym HAG, has compiled data on over 800 relationships spanning 630 movies. Vanda, digest all that data like a well-aged steak with a side of mac and cheese off the kids menu.
Cross-referencing 800 relationships over 630 movies.
First, the outliers. Let's check out which movies have the largest gaps. No huge surprise to any Dragon Slayers out there, the biggest one goes to Harold and Maude, the story about a romance between an old soul and a young man's body, and vice versa. The gap's kind of the whole point of the movie. Also not shocking, it's the only one on this graphic where the older partner is a woman. 52 years older, in fact. That's an entire Johnny Knoxville of difference between them. After that, we've got gaps between 38 and 50 years. For most of these on-screen couples, the gap plays a significant part in the plot. These are a lot of older men getting their groove back stories, whether good or bad. And then there's Entrapment, where the romance between Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones basically goes uncommented on.
I was prepared for everything, except you.
Next, let's turn our attention to movies with multiple large age gap couples. An interesting thing to know about these is that the large age gaps are not discussed. Much like when your 40-year-old uncle brought home his girlfriend who just started college, everyone else in the movie just pretends it isn't happening. For example, A View to a Kill's Bond, this time played by Roger Moore, is 58. With partners aged 37, 30, 29, and 28, he tops this list easily. It's also probably not a coincidence that half of these movies are Bond movies. The only thing Bond loves shaking more than a martini is the cradle. He gets older, they stay the same age. All right. Also interesting to note is that most of these Bond movies star Roger Moore. I wonder if there's a way to see which actors have been in the most movies with multiple large age gap relationships. Come on, you already knew there was. I wouldn't have said it if there wasn't. And look who's in third after the tie between the very dreamy double duo of Richard Gere and Harrison Ford at number 1, and classic heartthrob Humphrey Bogart at number 2. Good old Roger Moore. Among the rest is, oh, hey look, another Bond, Pierce Brosnan. Starting to seem like a lot of movies with age gaps that are inconsequential to the plot, most of which favor older men, is a crucial part of the Bond formula. Maybe they'll cast Ian McKellen in the next one. Let's move to directors of multiple films with large age gap relationships. Each of the directors on this graph have multiple movies with at least one relationship with an age gap of over 15 years. Heading up the pack is, oh boy, Woody Allen, with 13 movies featuring an age gap and a romantic relationship of over 15 years. And yes, a lot of those have him casting himself as the leading man. Ugh. Right behind him is John Glenn, director of several Bond films with different Bonds, including our friend Roger Moore. Whereas Woody Allen's choice feels like a confession, Glenn clearly feels some kind of way about Bond's ability to bed younger women. As if we need proof he can get octopussy. The data makes it clear that while older men are hooking up with much younger women in movies, it's very rarely happening the other way around. Where does that leave women of a comparable age, besides being cast as the mothers of actors they once played love interest to? Let's take that on in our next point, industry dynamics of romantic age gaps. Let's look at movie relationships with large age gaps by gender seniority. Going from the 1940s through 2010, there is a chasm between movies with a man in a relationship with someone 15 or more years younger than him, and movies with a woman in a relationship with someone 15 years younger than her.
It's not even 80/20ths, which is a common ratio of fat to lean in hamburger, which is a coincidence because looking at these numbers, I'm sure some of you all got beef.
It certainly seems like men get more age variety in their love interests than women do. So let's zoom in a little bit and see exactly what the romance age gap by gender superiority looks like. And it looks grim! Seems like if a woman happens to be older than her on-screen partner, it's typically by no more than 5 years, according to that blue line. There's a little bit of yellow for 5 to 10 years, but all the other colors on this graph stand no chance. Compare that with men right above it. It's clear which gender gets to taste the rainbow. So far this video is looking real dude heavy. We haven't even had a real example involving a woman since all the way at the beginning talking about Harold and Maude. And according to the data, There are fewer women filmmakers afforded the opportunities that male filmmakers get to cast on-screen couples. Now, to be fair, this dataset does stop at 2010, so it won't take into account recent changes or events, like the huge impact Greta Gerwig's Barbie could have on expanding the playing field.
No worries, folks. I'm about 5 updates away from being able to predict the future.
But just out of curiosity, let's find out what happens if we compare movies with large age gap relationships by filmmaker gender. While women filmmakers are more likely to have a woman character with a 15 or more year age gap between her and her paramour, it's not by that much. A way to interpret that is that this is an industry-wide trend no matter the gender of the filmmaker. Of course, as we've stated earlier, for the most part, women historically have not been given the same opportunities behind the camera as men have been, and these stats end in 2010. It may also be that women filmmakers are trying to tell these stories, but those stories aren't being produced at the same rate as their male counterparts.
Maybe Queenie and Dom will finally hook up in the last Fast and Furious.
A bot can dream. Unfortunately, Hollywood's not going to change the way they cast these movies overnight. But if there's one thing Hollywood responds to, it's social media discourse. Well, if there's 2 things Hollywood responds to, it's money. And money is usually not second.
Enough talk about age gaps. I'm gonna watch a wholesome movie about 2 high school-aged kids falling in love in the rains of Washington State. Twilight. Wait, Edward's how old? Man, even the young guys dating young girls in Hollywood are still somehow old guys.
Sorry, Fanda. If you want to watch 2 30-year-olds make out, you'll have to go rewatch Riverdale. Thanks for watching.